I think that a common misconception that the public may have about judges is that they know absolutely everything. And I can tell you from experience that they certainly do not. However, the good judges that don't know everything know how to get to the answer properly. And that's going to be me when I'm your next judge in Department 24. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jori Spangler, and I am the president of the Southern Nevada Association of Women Attorneys. I want to thank all of you for joining us in our third of the series of judicial candidate forums. I have a couple of announcements. On October 21st, we are having our virtual paint party at 4:30. If you are interested in doing that, you need to do it by 16th because the stuff that you need for the paint party will have to be sent to you, and that is being taken care of by, I think it's Worldwide Litigation, the cost for that. On November 5th, we're having our Zoom regular luncheon on e-discovery. On November 17th, we are having our shearing gala, and we are doing that virtually. We're going to be having a silent auction. So if anybody has anything that they can donate to the silent auction, please reach out to Shannon Splain or one of us on the board. And we are also just taking money donations, and then we can go out and purchase some things. So please help us out if you have anything. And December 3rd is our charity luncheon, and that will also be via Zoom. I want to thank our sponsors, Nevada State Bank, Northwestern Mutual, Worldwide Litigation, and the executives. And a special shout out to Alexander and Brittany from our Nevada judges who have been doing such a wonderful job videoing this for us and editing it and making it look all pretty. And they are also broadcasting it for us, and we have it available on our Facebook page. And I think we're working on getting it up on our SNAWA website. And I've also been posting it on my personal webpage, my personal Facebook page, just saying, people, you always ask me who to vote for judges. Here's a link, listen yourself and see who you like. So I will turn this over to Alexis, who is going to be handling the rest of this. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much, Jori. I appreciate that. Thank you to all of our candidates for coming. Yes, thank you so much to Alex and Brittany of our Nevada judges for making sure that we are having a lovely broadcast, and we'll have a beautiful video for everyone to post and share on the backside of this. I just want to mention we have, of course, our two other candidate forums coming up. We have two more coming that will run through. We'll start with the family court departments next time, and then run through into Las Vegas Justice Court and North Las Vegas Justice Court at the very end there. So we're running right up to the election day to make sure that we get all of the district court and all of the judicial candidates, all the contested judicial candidates in for all of our viewers. Also wanted to mention that there is a CLE that we wanted to make sure that our members are aware of. It's called Raise Hell, The Life and Times of Molly Ivins. It'll be a viewing of a documentary about Molly Ivins, and then there will be a panel discussion that has our Chief Supreme Court Justice, Christina Pickering, among others, that will be presenting for that. Also, I also sit on the board of the Clark County Law Foundation as well, and we are moving into the Liberty Bell Award times. So we have selected a couple of nominees. We're just waiting for our second one to confirm so that we can make those announcements, and plan to do that very soon. And then we also have our Let Freedom Ring art contest that is running. So we invite all K through 12 students who may want to participate in an art contest to win prizes. That's about the 19th Amendment. So of course, the 19th Amendment is reached its 100th anniversary in the year in 2020. 2019, 2020 is the 100th year. And so the theme this year is Your Voice, Your Vote, Our Democracy, the 19th Amendment at 100. So if you have any K-12 students who might want to participate in that, they can reach out to me. And also look at the Clark County Law Foundation's Facebook page for more information and all of the official rules there. All right, so ground rules. Candidates, you'll have 4 minutes to speak. I will call time at the end of it. You will be muted. That'll be your 4 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and spotlight the next candidate after that. If anyone who is watching or any of our participants have any questions for any of our candidates, they can either leave them in the chat box publicly, or you can send them to D. Sol or Pam Jones privately. You can also send them to me privately as well. So that way, if it's, for instance, a judge or somebody, you don't want them to know that you've asked the question, that's fine. So that way we can make sure that all of the questions that you want to get asked are getting asked. The candidates will go in a little bit of a different order. Normally we would go in direct order. We've got a couple of conflicts for our judges that we need to accommodate for. So we will take Department 31 will go first, and then we will take Department 29 will go out of order and go last. Otherwise it will go in order. So it'll be Department 31, then 21, 22, 23, 24, and then 32, and then 29. So that will be our order today. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Let's go ahead and get started. So since we're taking Department 31 first, that will be Judge Joanna Kishner is our first candidate who will be speaking. Okay, all right, Judge Kishner, go ahead and you can tell us about your candidacy for Department 31 starting now.
Well, first off, I want to thank everyone who not only is participating in putting on this forum, but anyone who's taking some of your own time to learn more about myself and the other individuals running for the judiciary. My name is Joanna Kishner. I have been the judge in Department 31 since it was first created back in 2010. I would like to a little bit about myself is I was born and raised in this community, and what was ingrained in me at a very early age is you need to take care of your family, your community, and you need to have a hard work ethic. And that's something that I've done throughout my entire life. After growing up here and graduating valedictorian from Clark High School and yearbook editor, and I was actually on student council, executive board with Catherine Cortez Masto, I went to college at Claremont McKenna College, double majored in political science and psychology, and I worked with autistic children at their Claremont Graduate School. And I also did a lot of different pro bono efforts in that regard, working with the community throughout Claremont. I then went to UCLA Law School. I externed for a federal judge. I worked in the Homeless Legal Project and was managing editor of the Federal Communications Law Journal. I then, for the next 20 years, did a breadth and depth of very broad-based litigation. I was at 2 international firms where I practiced not only in California, Nevada, but throughout the country and throughout the world pretty much. I also was in-house at Warner Brothers. And for me, it was very important to have this breadth and depth of experience before I sought judicial office. In addition to my practice, I also was a small claims referee, a traffic court referee, a judge pro tem, and an arbitrator. And for me, I wanted to have that breadth and depth of experience before I took all my knowledge to running for judicial office. At the same time of doing all of that, I also was very active in the CAP program, which is the Children's Attorneys Project, representing abused and neglected children. I also represented a youth trying to escape some gangs in Central America and did a lot of other pro bono and community activities. I was very active with our schools as having 2 wonderful children and was a proud parent and worked with a lot of their different activities. Since I've been on the bench, thank you so much for electing me in 2010. I was unopposed in 2014, but then throughout my tenure on the bench, in addition to my docket, which is mostly a civil docket with a construction defect specialty docket, and I do overflow criminal cases in Department 31. I'm on Nevada's Access to Justice Commission. I'm on Legal Aid of Southern Nevada's Pro Bono Advisory Committee. I'm on the executive board of Boyd Law School's Public Interest Law Foundation. I'm a trustee at the Law Library, and I'm on our District Judges Association. I also was formerly the chairman of our Rules Committee. For me, it's very important that not only do I serve our community on the bench fairly, ethically, and ensure that I make well-reasoned decisions based on the rule of law, but I also continue to serve our community by working in all those different avenues. I also set up a program for ATEC so that they did their senior project in my courtroom, a 3-hour moot court trial, and set up an externship program for the legal studies program at ATEC. I also was on the board of Clark High School as well, because I think it starts with our youth. I do judge many of the competitions, debate, moot court, etc., and I continue to give back to our community. I've been honored to serve everyone for the last decade and hope to earn your vote in the November election. Judge Joanna Kishner, that's judgekishner.com is my website, Department 31. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Judge Kishner. We appreciate that very much. All right, so Judge Kishner's opponent is Gary Karl. However, Mr. Karl has not registered and does not appear to be here today. So that means that we will go ahead and move forward on to Department 21. And the first candidate for Department 21 is Tara Clark Newberry. All right, you can go ahead and chat about your candidacy now.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Tara Clark Newberry for Department 21. Many of the members of SNALA know me. I've been a member since Judge Alf recruited me my first year practicing outside of a UNLV law school program. I've been a member of SNALA and have attended lots of the events. So thank you for putting on this event, trying to find out more about the candidates, and for everyone attending. My background is a little unique. I'm probably the most unusual candidate with regards to my work history, in that I was a police officer before I became a trial lawyer. And I actually became a lawyer with the goal of becoming a judge. So let me take you back to how I found myself in law school. I worked my way through college at the Disability Services Office at the university I was attending. And I started advocating for students with disabilities for a newly enacted law under the ADA. And that inspired me to serve the community, serve the public, and the call to be a public servant started then. I then went to the police academy directly out of college, and I had a lot of unique assignments. I worked in patrol. Everyone does that to begin. And then I also worked in the Resource Bureau. I wrote grants for the police department. I also worked with the Resource Bureau on improving our standards and accountability, and became a liaison to the LGBTQ community. I was the first out police officer in Cincinnati. And I think I made a tremendous difference in the community's relationship because of my service then. Due to some degenerative joint disease in my knees, I couldn't finish my law enforcement career. And so I went and talked to a friend of mine who was a judge and said, "What do you think I should do?" She said, "You should go to law school. You'd be such a good lawyer." And so she was my mentor. And I said, well, you know, I really would like to be a judge. I think that the amount of time I've had in the criminal justice system, I really think I have a lot to give to the community in that regard. And so she recommended that I focus on civil litigation because I needed to have that balance in order to go to the bench with a well-rounded experience. So I started out medical malpractice, insurance defense litigation. I then transitioned into real estate. I worked for the late Susan Scan before she took the bench. She was a wonderful mentor, as was Leanne Sanders, who I worked for, and I learned a substantial amount from them. And since then, I've had my own practice where I've mostly focused on consumer rights litigation. I've tried numerous cases, and I have argued cases to the Nevada Supreme Court as well as the Ninth Circuit. I have over 50 appeals under my belt. I think that's important for a trial court judge because you're looking for someone who not only has the experience of the trial court, but how the trial court's rulings, whether it's from a motion for summary judgment or dispositive motions post-trial, all of these different elements factor into an appeal. And so I think you need to be able to rule from the bench in a manner that gives a very clear and distinct understanding of how you reached your decision and the rulings that you've made with regards to any judgments issued. In addition to being a trial lawyer, I am dedicated to the community. I've worked in the Trial by Peers program. I've taught law school in the summers for evidence and objections. I have served as a neutral. In addition to working in the community as a trial lawyer, I've worked as a private arbitrator for real estate disputes and the foreclosure mediation program, as well as the bankruptcy court. So I have a wealth of experience as a neutral, as a trial lawyer, and in appeals. And so I ask for your vote, Tara Clark Newberry for Department 21. And I think the most important community thing that I've done thus far, and she mentioned Holly, my daughter has been diagnosed with cancer. And so I've been battling and advocating for her all this summer. And that certainly has taught me a lot about compassion for others. And I hope to bring that to the bench. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara, so much. Appreciate it. Okay, so we will go ahead and move on to Department 22. Our first candidate for Department 22 is Judge Susan Johnson. We will spotlight Judge Johnson. Welcome, Judge Johnson. Thank you for coming today. Let me go ahead and you can discuss your candidacy for Department 22 starting now.
All right. Thank you, SNAWA, for doing this. This is a way for us to get out and tell folks who don't know anything about judges what we are about. I was initially elected as State District Court Judge in Department 22, and I was sworn in on January 2nd of 2007, and thereafter I was overwhelmingly re-elected twice in 2008 and 2014 with well over 82% of the vote and 75% of the vote, respectively. I currently hear civil and constructional defect matters, although I also hear criminal matters on an overflow basis. I've been a resident of the greater Las Vegas area since November of 1963. And if you're doing a little math, that's almost 57 years. I, of course, went to school in public schools in both Henderson and in Las Vegas. I graduated from Ed W. Clark High School in 1977. And then I attended and graduated from UNLV in 1982, where I acquired a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a dual major in public accounting and investment finance. I thereafter graduated from McGeorge School of Law in 1985. And yes, that makes me a 35-year lawyer. And I have been a member of the Nevada and California State Bar since 1985 and 1986, respectively. I am also admitted to practice before the United States District Court, District of Nevada, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the United States Supreme Court. Before assuming a bench, I was an attorney of over 21 years. I was AB rated by Martindale Hubbell, and the last 12 years of my practice, I had my own law firm. And my practice was pretty much a boutique practice. It involves civil litigation, personal injury practice, security or premises liability, domestic or family law, wills, and simple estate planning, just to name a few. My background also includes insurance and civil rights defense, and I had a very active trial practice. I was a trial lawyer, and I didn't keep count, but I know it's well over 75 trials that I've done. I also was an arbitrator, and I rendered decisions in over 600 matters, and I also litigated arbitrations. I was settlement judge for the Nevada Supreme Court, short trial judge for the 8th Judicial District Court, judge pro tem for the Las Vegas Justice Court, as well as alternate hearing master in child support cases. And as you can imagine, I did all that, and I was doing a quasi-judicial practice, and I decided to do it for real in 1986. Of course, I've taught several CLE courses, spoken at various seminars and conferences during my career, including, but not limited to that, dealing with arbitration, construction defects, rule of civil procedure, professional responsibility, personal injury cases from start to finish, and uninsured and underinsured motorist cases. I'm also very active in the community. I am a past president of the Howard D. McGibbon chapter of the American Inns of Court, the Rotary Club of Green Valley, and Nevada Rotary Foundation, and I currently serve as the foundation chair for Rotary District 5300, as well as the Rotary Club of Green Valley. I also hold or have held memberships and offices in various other organizations, such as SNAWA, I'm a member, Daughters of the American Revolution, Junior League of Las Vegas, National Association of Women Business Owners, and Henderson Chamber of Commerce, just to name a few. I'm married to another district court judge, Eric Johnson, for over 33 years. We have 2 adult daughters, Tess and Emma. Tess is a lawyer, by the way. When not attending my judicial duties, one thing I enjoy doing is running half and whole marathons with my family, and we do that throughout the country, and we've also done it internationally. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Judge Johnson. That was perfect timing. All right, so the Judge Johnson's opponent is Ben Nadig is Judge Johnson's opponent, but I do not see that Mr. Nadig is present, so we'll move on to Department 23. Our first candidate for Department 23 is Karl Armstrong. All right, Mr. Armstrong, you can go ahead and speak about your candidacy for Department 23 starting now.
Okay. Thank you, Snow, for having me in terms of this judicial forum. This is probably the only way in which we can have a chance to talk to people about our candidacy. I'm a 27-year resident of Las Vegas. I'm a 30-year lawyer. I practiced for 3 years in Chicago as a public defender. And when I got to Nevada, I worked for 2 district court judges as a law clerk, both Judge Adelaire Guy, who was the first Black district court judge, as well as Sally Laurer. After that, I went to the Attorney General's office and worked as a prosecutor in workers' compensation fraud. I also did inmate litigation in terms of visiting all the prisons in the state of Nevada. I also did all the employment work for the Nevada Department of Prisons. I also did the habeas work in terms of doing appeals in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So I've done like 5 or 6 court appearances within the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I have 2 published opinions in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. After that, I went to the university system and became one of their assistant general counsels. What the assistant general counsels at the university do is they represent the institutions on anything and everything they have to do, from employment to student government to any basically litigation matter that they have. We did a lot of civil litigation relative to that, especially employment matters. at the university system. After that, I worked for 2 insurance companies, State Farm and Travelers. My last employment was with Travelers, and I was there for 14 years. The last 5, I was doing workers' comp defense for insurance companies as well as employers. Presently, I'm an appeals officer appointed by the governor for the state of Nevada, basically hearing workers' compensation appeals. So we're kind of like a civil court in terms of what we do is we're an on-record proceeding, and what we do is we take evidence, we make rulings, we do everything that's done in civil court in terms of trying to get to a decision in a workers' comp matter. At this particular point, the reason why I'm running for judge is because I believe that there are things that we need to do in order to make the court system better. I also have served and am presently serving as a member of the Commission for Judicial Discipline. I've been on that commission for about 18 years. I also did 12 years on lawyer discipline in terms of disciplining lawyers. So ethics is very strong to me in terms of what I want to do in terms of service to our community. I've also seen good judges and bad judges in terms of the actions that we've taken in the Judicial Discipline Commission. And I don't want to be one of the bad judges. I want to be one of the good judges. Someone that listens, someone that basically takes everything in before making a determination. And once that determination is made, then doing it as quickly and as expeditiously as possible after hearing everybody's point of view and getting that decision to the parties so the parties can decide what they want to do next. I want to be courteous and respectful for everyone that comes into my court because I believe the court belongs to the people and not to the judge. And basically, part of our role is also to be a politician as well as being a judge. So to a certain extent, we have to get out to the community and make choices as to what they want for us to do in terms of the courts that we presently serve under. I've been married for 25 years to a wonderful woman named Chandra. At this particular point, she's running for office too. She's running for Assembly District 6. And basically, she's also run for office a couple of times before. And I've always thought that she is the type of person that we need in public service because she cares about her community and wants to do whatever she can for that community. So I supported all her candidacies that she's had. She's run for city council a couple of times. And from licking stamps to going out on cold days, trying to get her votes and things of that nature, that's what we've been doing over the time of our marriage. So basically, she supports me and I support her.
We appreciate you giving us your time. All right, our next candidate for Department 23 is Jasmin Lilly-Spells. We'll spotlight her video. Hi, welcome, Jasmin. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming. All right, great. You can go ahead and chat about your candidacy for Department 23 starting now.
Good afternoon, Snawa. Thank you so much for holding this forum. Thank you for the individuals who are watching via Facebook or at another time. I'm Jasmin Lilly-Spells, and I am your candidate for District Court Judge, Department 23. I have the courage, integrity, and commitment that it takes to be the best judge. I've courageously protected all of our constitutional rights for over a decade, ensuring the right to free speech, the right to privacy, and the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures in your own home. I have integrity, and that's important because when I make a mistake or I do something that should be done better, I'm a person who will be honest about it, and I always work to become better at whatever it is that I'm doing. So I believe in growth. And that's important because on the bench, I will not make decisions with regard to my self-interest, but I will truly make decisions after listening to the parties and applying the law. I'm committed to our community. I've served as a court-appointed special advocate, advocating for the best interest of children in the abuse and neglect system. I've served on many organizations that deal with schools. I've served on the site organizational team, which does the budgeting at local schools. I've served on executive boards of PTA. I've also served on parent-teacher task force for schools. I have been a mentor to at-risk children through my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I'm also a mentor to younger attorneys. I've helped to establish programs at schools pre-COVID where children at risk schools would have guest readers, and those children would also have the opportunity to have their own book and have backpacks delivered to them. With regard to my legal experience, I've been a volunteer mediator, handling mediations through the Neighborhood Justice Center. I take on pro bono civil cases on a regular basis, and I am a trial attorney. I'm in the courtroom 4 out of 5 days, if not 5 days out of the week. I've handled thousands of cases, numerous hearings, and multiple evidentiary hearings. I think I'm in the thousands of evidentiary hearings. I've handled cases from traffic to murder, and I've handled absolutely every single stage of a case from the beginning to the end. So from arraignment all the way through post-conviction. I've argued at every level of our state courts. I've written and argued my own appeals. With regard to some of the areas of law that come before the court, prior to becoming an attorney, I was actually a medical assistant. And so I understand medical terminology. I volunteered and worked within hospitals. And I also grew up in a household where my dad spent his entire career in carpentry. And so I grew up on the work sites. I've sat in and listened to civil depositions, and I'm familiar with some of the term with regard to construction defects because that's what I've grown up listening to and being around. Growing up, I didn't know any attorneys, and I became interested in the law after my cousin suffered a very tragic death in an interaction with law enforcement. Prior to becoming an attorney, I interviewed to be a sheriff because I wanted to see all aspects of the case and see how I could best help people. I am the wife to a Navy veteran. I'm the mom of 4 young children. Some people on my campaign trail have asked me about my youth or how young I am and why I think I can do a good job even being younger than some of the other candidates. I think that we need judges who have the zeal and the commitment to the court system. Judges who aren't afraid to roll up their sleeves and get the work done. I'm committed to public service and always have been. That's why my entire career has been about public service. I can be fair because I've looked at both sides of the case. I've worked on both sides of the case. Additionally, as a judge, I want to be someone who's in the community as a public servant because I think it's so important to be role models and to educate the public about our system so that they better understand our system and they have more trust in our system.
All right, so we are moving on to Department 24, which our first candidate, let's see here. Erica Ballou is a candidate in Department 24, but I do not see that she has, she's not participating here today. So our next candidate for Department 24 is Dan Gilliam. We will spotlight Mr. Gilliam. Welcome, Dan. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if anybody has questions for any of our candidates, please make sure you leave them in the chat box, or you can send them privately to myself, to Pam, or to D. Sol. All right, Dan, you can go ahead and tell us about your candidacy for Department 24 starting now.
Thank you very much, Alexis. Good to see you again, too. Thank you. Thank you, Snawa, for hosting this. A couple of housekeeping matters. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hello to my lovely wife, who is also in the meeting right now. Jacqueline, nice to see you, dear. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to Holly as well, like you did, Alexis. We're all rooting for her. And I'm very jealous of Tara. She's the only person I know that can pull off this haircut better than I can. You look great, Tara. All right, so I am running for District Court Judge, Department 24. It is currently held by Judge Crockett, who is retiring at the end of this year, which means it's going to be an open seat. And so the voters have a chance to elect someone in that department that has never been a judge before. Neither myself nor my opponent have held a political position, much less that of a judge, in our careers. And so it's going to be a new experience for one of us, hopefully me. A little bit about me is I am originally from Ohio. I went to The Ohio State University for my undergraduate degree in education, my graduate degree in education, and my law degree as well from there. Moved out here in 2004 and began my practice and have been here ever since. I have devoted my entire career to criminal law, about half of my career as a prosecutor, half as a defense attorney. I started off at the Clark County Public Defender's Office, where I worked for 2.5 years, representing indigent individuals that were charged with things from minor misdemeanors up to major felonies. I then shifted gears and became a prosecutor out of the city of Henderson, where I prosecuted mainly domestic violence and DUIs. While I was there, I also taught at the Henderson Police Academy. I taught probable cause law, search and seizure law, as well as DUI protocols. In 2015, I decided to go back to do criminal defense. I opened up my own firm, and a couple of years after that, my firm was absorbed and taken over by a personal injury workers' comp firm in town, and I handle all of their criminal work. The reason that I am running for judge is I've been, like I said, an attorney for almost 16 years now. And when you first leave school, kind of the first thing that you want to do is get a job and get a place to live. And once you meet the person that you want to be with and you start a family, whatever the situation is, I kind of anyways developed this sense that I wanted to keep my home safe. And once I met Jackie and she and I got married, I wanted to keep Jackie safe. Once I got to meet my neighbors and become friends with them, I decided, we were involved in our neighborhood watch program. I felt the need to keep my neighborhood safe, and now I'm to the point where I want to keep all of Clark County safe. And I feel that I can best do that as your next judge in Department 24. I took a little bit of a break between law school and graduate school. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. About halfway through graduate school, I decided that wasn't the route I was going to go. But for about 4 years, I worked at a residential treatment facility for foster kids, ages 6 to 13. There were kids that had substantial behavioral problems that prevented them from either living at home with their families or living in foster homes. And so they would come to us as kind of a crisis care facility. We would assess their needs and determine if we could reunify them with family, if we could put them in a proper foster home, or if they needed a long-term care facility. And so I worked there for, like I said, for 4 years. My first 2 years, I worked kind of, online and with the kids directly. My second 2 years, I was promoted to program director. And after doing that for that amount of time, I decided to go back to law school. But I've always had an interest in working with kids and doing whatever I could do to make sure that they are on the best paths that they can be on. And so I was introduced to the Trial by Peers program a few years ago. The Clark County Law Foundation has a program where they reach out for individuals, especially high school age kids, maybe middle school age kids too, that get into trouble and would normally be gone into the juvenile system. But if they can complete this, what is pretty much a diversionary program. If they can complete the diversionary program, then their cases never get referred to to juvenile court, and they don't have to worry about their records being taken in. And so the Trial by Peers program is very, very interesting in that if an individual is charged with, let's say, possession of alcohol by a minor, we will have a court setting in a courtroom where you will have someone that's playing the judge, and I would play the judge in the courtroom, where I was participating.
Thank you, Dan, for your 4 minutes, and thank you for the shout out to the Trial by Peers program. We appreciate your participation in that very much. All right, so now we were going to take Department 29 last, but it looks like we have both of our candidates here for Department 29 now. So we'll go ahead and take Judge Jones first. We'll spotlight Judge Jones. Welcome, Judge Jones. You can go ahead and start to speak about your candidacy for Department 29 starting now.
Great, thanks everyone. I'm happy that you guys can make accommodations for me. I'm trying to finish up a criminal calendar as we speak right now. I am Judge David Jones, as most of you know me, although I do miss our little meetings over at Main Street. I am your judge in Department 29 and have been since my appointment by Governor Sandoval. My little background, I'm not going to take too much of your time. You can get it all online. I was born and raised here in Clark County. I was a school teacher before I was a member of the state bar, but as soon as I got my license, I came back to Nevada and practiced here in Nevada my entire career. I have a split criminal civil docket, as you know. I am one of the highest ranked judges in retention. I think myself and Jori are in the high 80s for retention. I'm AV rated and have done all those cases and all that type of background. And I just want to make sure we understand that for some reason I'm being asked or being stated I'm part of the status quo, the white elite or the white male elite. I think that's kind of funny as I'm just part of the bench now. And I am probably the most verbal advocate for women's rights in regards to the law practice, father of 2 professional young women. One I'm praying or pushing very hard to come back to Clark County when she passes law school. To practice here somewhere in Clark County where we've always been raised. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to me. I'm going to jump back out really quickly and finish up my calendar. But if anybody has any questions, just reach out to me. I'm always available. Judge David Jones, Department 29. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Judge Jones. Appreciate that. All right, so the next candidate for Department 29 is David Lopez-Negrete. And hello, welcome, David. Thank you so much. We will go ahead. You can go ahead and speak about your candidacy for Department 29 starting now.
Thank you so much, Snawa, for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. Once again, my name is David Lopez-Negrete, or David Lopez-Negrete, if you speak Spanish. Equal justice under the law is my campaign slogan. I believe that each and every person who comes before the court deserves equal respect, courtesy, and consideration. And I have dedicated my legal career as a public defender to ensuring that working class individuals and the least fortunate among us get equal justice. I believe that one of the key measures of any society is how it treats its most vulnerable and least powerful members. A little bit about me. I was originally born in Mexico City. At the age of 7 years old, we moved here to the US. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Then I went to college at NYU. I graduated magna cum laude with honors. Afterwards, I went to the University of Arizona in Tucson for law school. And while I was there, I actually became a naturalized US citizen. And I'm very proud of that. And as a result, one of my deep core personal values is a commitment to the rule of law and my belief that everyone deserves a fair trial. And that's what I've been doing. I've been working as a trial attorney at the Clark County Public Defender's Office for 10 years now. I've handled all kinds of cases from misdemeanor to murder and at all stages, from arraignment all the way to appeal. I've represented countless clients and I've handled I've been lead counsel in somewhere between 15 to 20 trials, including jury and bench trials. And for the past 5 years, I have handled exclusively life sentence cases. I've also handled scores and scores of evidentiary hearings. I have also litigated in the Supreme Court on appeal after conviction or even interlocutory appeals, handling mandamus petitions and that kind of thing. In terms of my association with women attorneys, I'll say that I have benefited greatly at the public defenders. I interned originally for Christy Craig, who is another judicial candidate. And then when I started at the office, my first jury trial, my co-counsel was actually Nancy Lemke, and the judge who presided was Judge Linda Bell. Afterwards, my team chief was hearing master Peter Yeager. And then currently on the specialty team where I am now, my team chief is again another woman, Violet Radasta. And so I think that we should continue to have a strong women presence in our field, and I have benefited greatly from that. Why am I running against an incumbent judge? Because I don't scare easily, but more importantly, because another core value of mine is democracy and free competition. I believe that voters should have something they didn't have before in this department, and that is a choice. I'm bringing my qualifications and my underrepresented perspective of being in the trenches, seeing the struggles of ordinary men and women, and fighting to uphold all of our rights. And I believe that we need more people with backgrounds like mine on the bench. We don't need more of the same. The wealthy and well-connected don't need more representation. Everyday individuals need more representation. Disadvantaged minorities need more representation. Equal justice under the law has been my North Star since the first client I represented, and it will continue to be my guide if you do me the honor of voting for me. Once again, David Lopez-Negrete, I appreciate your support. You can learn more about me at negrete4nevada.com. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate that. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to Department 32. Our first candidate for Department 32 is Judge Rob Baer. Judge Baer, we'll got your spotlighted video here. Judge Baer, you can go ahead and speak about your candidacy for Department 32 starting now.
Thanks a lot, Alexis and members of SNAWA. I'm Rob Baer. I've been the district judge in Department 32 ever since it's been in its existence for 10 years now. I really appreciate the note that you sent talking about the idea that we should highlight our own attributes, our own qualifications. And I took that to mean keep it positive. And I got to tell you, that'll be refreshing in this race. I started my career as a member of the United States Army JAG Corps. I signed up for 3 years. I served a little bit more than 4 years. I was practicing exclusively criminal law. I was a trial lawyer. I was in front of military juries a lot. We were really busy in the service. I had 3, 4, 5 trials a month. Some of them were bench trials, but I was regularly in front of military juries for that time. In 1993, I had heard that Nevada was a land of opportunity, and so I came here after being honorably discharged from the Army, and I've been lucky. I was hired as the chief prosecutor for the State Bar of Nevada. And I know that this audience knows what the Bar Council for the State Bar does. I had to add it up for some of the groups who wanted to know specific statistics. And I was surprised. I presented 870 trials on behalf of the State Bar of Nevada over the 17 years that I was the chief prosecutor. That included some cases that were 2, 3, 4, 5 days long. And I want to say that practice, just like any trial practice, at times was very intense. You can ask, for example, Jeannie Winkler, who sat there for 5 days while I presented her past client after client after client and proved that she embezzled somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000 from those clients, and she was disbarred from the practice of law. Those cases can be intense, as you can imagine. I heard Karl Armstrong talk about being on those panels. People like Mike Douglas, Mike Cherry, Steve Wolfson regularly appeared on those panels. The juries were 5 members, 4 lawyers, 1 member from the public, and all the rules of evidence applied, and they were just like trials. So in 2009, 2010 timeframe, the Nevada legislature in its wisdom created Department 32. I was asked by probably about 200 lawyers to run for it. I ran for it for one reason and one reason only. And I'll tell you, it was because my mom, who's 88 and still alive now, was alive then. And I wanted to do it so she'd be proud of me. I won the election. And, I was just thinking about this group. And maybe the question for anyone watching this would be, what's it like? What's it really like to draw Department 32, Rob Baer, and be in Department 32? Respectfully, ask your president. Ask Jori Spangler. She's been in my court numerous times. I guess, Jori, you might just refer people to this debate, being somewhat judicious yourself. But you can also ask your co-vice president, Marjorie Hoff. She's had at least one jury trial in my room. You can ask a director, Alexandra McLeod, within the last year, she's had a jury trial with me. And it was my pleasure to have her there. I thought she did a wonderful job, and I'm sure we have a mutual respect for each other now.
Our second candidate for Department 32 is Christy Craig. Christy is spotlighted there. Welcome, Christy. Thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and you can start your chatting about your candidacy for Department 32 starting now, Christy.
Thanks. Hey, my name is Christy Craig, and I'm running against Judge Baer in Department 32. I have lived in Las Vegas for 40 years. I have been married for 36. I've got 2 adult children. I started off in Las Vegas as a medical technologist. So when you had your blood drawn or left a urine sample at the doctor's office, I was the person who tested it. I went to school at UNLV during that time frame and ultimately graduated with a degree in history. And then I decided to go to law school. And at that time, there were no law schools in Nevada, so I had to go to San Diego. I left my husband and 2 daughters here. They were 5 and 2 at the time. They were confused. They thought I was going to law school at the airport. And I finished law school and started practicing law in 1996. I spent a couple of years doing civil work while I was preparing for the bar and after I passed the bar. And then I finally got a job at the public defender's office, and that was the place I needed to be. It was the work that I knew I wanted to do, and I found a home there, a place to get good and extensive training in trial work. District court, the court I'm running for, is a trial court. Both civil and criminal trials happen in district court, and district court judges have to be competent, experienced, and understand trials. I am a trial lawyer. I've been doing trials for more than 2 decades. I have done all kinds of cases from petty misdemeanors to capital homicides where the prosecution is seeking the death penalty. In fact, I am Rule 250 qualified under the Nevada Supreme Court rule, which allows me to represent somebody in when the state is seeking to put them to death. I have spent my entire career representing the most vulnerable in our community. I discovered some years ago that mentally ill criminal defendants were languishing in our jail, waiting for a transfer to a forensic mental hospital for treatment. They were just waiting there for sometimes up to 6 months. I took action and I sued the state of Nevada and won. And as a result, the state built Stein Forensic Hospital in Clark County, the first forensic treatment facility for the mentally ill built in the entire state in more than 50 years. As the chief of the complex litigation unit, I supervised a team of attorneys in developing impact litigation strategies addressing systemic issues in our local justice system. After 2 years worth of work, filing hundreds of writs and motions, including in the 8th Judicial District Court and the Nevada Supreme Court, and even in federal district court. The Nevada Supreme Court just in April issued a historic ruling based on Valdez-Jimenez, the case we took up, that every person arrested in Nevada has a right to a constitutionally valid detention hearing before the court can require a pretrial detainee to post bail. This decision ended decades of unconstitutional detention of the poor for the entire state of Nevada. And I did those jobs while I was on the murder team and while I was representing people. They were sort of side gigs, getting the hospital built and leading the complex litigation unit. I currently teach at UNLV Boyd School of Law. I teach a trial advocacy class with my friend Nancy Lemke, who just recently retired from the Public Defender's Office. I'm on the local law enforcement advisory committee and the social services citizens advisory committee as well. It's time to have somebody with extensive and deep trial experience on the district court bench and somebody who is experienced in criminal trials as well. If elected, I'd be the only Rule 250 qualified judge on the bench unless Monica Trujillo is elected.
We do have one final candidate, Jacob Reynolds. Go ahead, we'll spotlight Jacob Reynolds. Jacob, thanks for coming. We'll go ahead. You have the last 4 minutes here before we get to questions. You can speak about your candidacy for Department 21 starting now.
Thank you. Thank you so much to SNAWA, and thank you, Alexis, for giving me the time to speak to you today. I was on a client phone call and it ran over, and so I apologize for being late. Thank you also to SNAWA for hosting this event. I often think these events are great, but it's hard to get to know somebody within a 2-minute, 4-minute time frame that we're allowed. So anybody on the call who's interested in getting to know more about me, my website is www.jacob4judge.com. And also, some of you may know Jori Spangler knows me, but also Diane Welch, one of your past presidents, knows me well. I actually practiced with Diane Welch, and if anybody wanted to know more about me or get a recommendation about me, I'd feel comfortable with you talking to either one of those two. I believe it's important as a judge to have several attributes like passion, integrity, performance, courage, empathy, those kind of things. And I believe that those are qualities that I possess. That's qualities that I was taught growing up, and they're qualities that I believe I teach my own children. In my family, I met my wife here. My wife was a resident at the time. She's an OBGYN, and she was doing her residency at UMC. We had all 4 children here. I have 1 boy and 3 girls, and I attribute it was I guess I could tell something unique. There's probably something everybody wants to know unique. Everybody on this phone call has seen each other before and heard the same thing again. But one thing about my wife is when I met her, I was trying to set her up with some of my friends because I was dating somebody else at the time, but they didn't want to date somebody who was a doctor, who had lived in Poland and served in Poland and knew a different language, all these things. And so finally I was like, my girlfriend and I broke up, and I decided, well, I'm going to date her then. I was very glad that it worked out. She's remarkable. I love her, and I've supported her and she's supported me. I think it's very important to have strong women involved. I also think it's important to have good men involved in public service. Perhaps I'll tell a story about that as well. My daughter really loves ice hockey, and I just got a picture from her. Some of you may know Juan Muniz, who does work for the Golden Knights, but he just did a piece for my daughter who had her birthday just yesterday. And I just bring up that story because I found out this week that somebody in my church, a 65-year-old woman, started dirt track racing in her car. And I printed off a picture if you didn't believe me. This is a picture of my daughter's Sunday school teacher who started dirt track racing because she saw the example of my daughter. There's barely any girls playing ice hockey right now. My daughter's like one of 50 in her class. And so, or I think there's 4 maybe of the 50. But she was inspired by my daughter pursuing something that women don't usually do. And that's something that I grew up in my family. understanding that everybody can do anything they want and they can pursue any goal they want. And it doesn't matter what gender you are, especially that. And so I'm happy to support this organization. I am the highest qualified candidate in this race. I am the only one with substantial bipartisan support. It's Jacob Reynolds in Department 21. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy for you to reach out and talk to me. Thank you.
Okay, so first thing I'd like to do is ask, I guess, well, let's start with the judges on the bench. So we'll start with judges on the bench and ask each of you, what actions have you taken to ensure that diversity and inclusion is protected in your courtroom? So our first judge, let's see, the first judge we have in the room still is Judge Johnson. So Judge Johnson will pull up your video. We will unmute you. And Judge Johnson, so if you can tell us, what have you done in your courtroom to ensure that diversity and inclusion is protected? You will have 90 seconds to answer that question, starting right now.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what that is referring to, but I will say this, that my staff is very diverse and has always been very diverse. From law clerks, I've had 4 Asian law clerks. I've had 1 African-American woman. I've had white women, white men. I've got a Hispanic court recorder. So, but I'm going to just tell you this, I don't hire them because of their ethnicity. I hire them because they're good. So I don't know what was really being asked of that. I know I'm respectful to all persons in my courtroom, irrespective of their color, their sex, or whatever. So I'm not exactly sure. We have to treat people respectfully of everybody who comes into the courtroom. So with that, I mean, my bailiffs have been, I've had an African-American one, I've had a white one, and it seems like whenever these people leave me, it's because they get promoted. So that, which is really frustrating, but like I said, I hire them because they're good, which is probably why they're getting promoted. So that's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Judge Johnson. I have to say, I agree. The good ones always leave. That's what I've been told. The good ones always leave. All right, our next judge that we have in the room, Judge Kishner. There you are. All right, so if you can tell us in your mind, what have you done in your courtroom to ensure that diversity and inclusion is protected? Go ahead and start right now.
Well, thank you so very much. Well, first off, that's a 2-pronged question. For litigants, I've explained a little bit about my work on the Access to Justice Commission, and it's very hard of what that is. That statewide program is to ensure that we do have better access to the courts for people who are marginalized, people who don't have the economic wherewithal to be in the courts. Similarly, with Legal Aid of Southern Nevada, I'm actually the judge. You've heard most of the judges throughout the 8th Judicial District talk about front of the line passes. I'm the one that created that with Legal Aid of Southern Nevada so that we can have people take on pro bono cases, encourage them to take on pro bono cases to help those less fortunate and those that are diverse, to ensure that they can actually have access to our court system. And I was honored to be the distinguished jurist in 2016 for my work. Also for diversity with my own team. My own team it's a rainbow coalition, as always has been. I hire the most qualified, and yes, a lot of them end up having to leave because they have greater, better opportunities, get promoted. And so I had that fortunate aspect to work with them in their future careers. And indeed, many of my former law clerks, externs, have done videos and have done different things to try and support my reelection campaign, appreciating how I've nurtured them and helped them and mentored them during their work in our department. So both from the litigation side as well as the department side, I try to ensure that we have full diversity and inclusion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Judge Kishner. All right, our next judge up is Judge Bear.
I think you can tell a lot about someone by what they actually do. And so this is a great question for me, I have to say, in all due respect. First of all, you asked about the courtroom. You see that picture there? That's me in the courtroom with an incredibly diverse group of young people. That's the ATAC mock trial team. I've been mentoring and coaching them for a little bit more than 5 years now. A couple of years ago, they won the state championship. what I do on Saturdays is I bring them into the courtroom and they do the entire trial in front of me, presiding over it as a judge. And then I give practice pointers, tips, mentor suggestions to them. In addition to that, you know, the thing I'm probably most proud of, actually, and I think it's the first time in the history of Nevada that anybody could say this. My marshal is Dominique Boza Edwards. I've been the judge in this department 10 years. In the second or third year, I had heard about a marshal who was not a courtroom marshal, again, Dominique. I heard she was smart. I heard she was terrific. I asked her, I recruited her, I asked her to be my in-court marshal, and she accepted the job and has been with me probably going on 7 years now. Well, you know, the thing about a marshal is they get to watch the law, they get to watch you and everything that happens in the courtroom.
So our next question will be actually for all of our candidates, and it will be, what have you personally done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal field and to advance their careers in the profession? We will start with Department 21 with Tara Clark Newberry. Tara, if you can unmute yourself. Perfect. So Tara, we will give you, since we're going to do all candidates on this one, we'll go ahead and do, well, we'll do 90 seconds. We'll give everybody 90 seconds on this one. So yes, what have you done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal field and to advance their careers? Go ahead and start now, Tara.
Thank you. Actually, I recently, a student I have mentored since she was 15 years old and in the Trial by Peers program. Her name is Polina Olivares, and she actually just started her first year of law school at Harvard. I met Polina through the Trial by Peers program and mentored her for many years. And then in high school, she came to me and said, you know, I'm really struggling to apply for colleges, and I need money to do that. And so I made up a clerkship position for her, and she did some clerical things for us in the office and was just a wonderful asset, and helped and mentored her all through her undergraduate studies at UNR, and have stayed in contact and have encouraged her to go to law school, and there she is at Harvard. And so I think I have personally taken an interest in not just Polina, but all of the students in Trial by Peers that have shown talent and desire. And I've motivated them and said, look, I came from a working class background. My sister was the first person in our family to graduate from college, and I'm the only person in our family with a postgraduate degree or doctoral degree. So I know what it looks like to come from those roots of not knowing if you really can accomplish it. And so I've sought out those students in the Trial by Peers program and have encouraged them to go to law school.
Thank you so much, Tara, for that. We appreciate you very much. Jacob Reynolds, you are up next. If you go ahead and start now.
Well, to enter the legal field specifically, I've already done a lot of work with women in the legal field and helping them advance their careers. But to go into the legal field, one thing I've done here locally is I've spent my time volunteering in the community and teaching fifth graders about the Constitution. I've been going in mainly into downtown schools and to schools on the east side and speaking, and I'm fluent in Spanish, and I actually get to use that a lot in those schools, and so I've enjoyed that. But it's actually been kind of really inspiring, because very smart kids, afterwards, after my lecture on the Constitution, I've had kids come up and ask me for my signature, which is something I never expect to happen to me as a judge or as an attorney with peers, but they have been inspired, and I've had several of them write me letters and decide they want to pursue something like that, where typically they're coming from a demographic of and economic portion of town that they wouldn't want to pursue that. I don't think that's possible, but you know, I've been there teaching them and hopefully inspiring them to pursue that and to know that they can pursue that and make a difference. So that's what I'd say.
Great. Thank you so much, Jacob. We appreciate that. Looks like Judge Johnson is next. Go ahead and start now.
Well, of course, I do career days with some of the children. So I have gone and talked about the law. Of course, that deals with both sexes of children. So I do encourage them that way. Of course, I write lots of letters of recommendation for young women to enter the field. And in fact, some very prominent attorneys have received my letters of recommendation. I'm proud of that. Of course, I hire women. But again, I don't hire them because they're women. I hire them because they're good. I've done that. In fact, one of my former law clerks is also running for judge, so I'm very proud of her. So I think I've had a hand in doing that. So I just talk to them and encourage them, and that's what I do.
Great, thank you so much, Judge Johnson. Up next, let's see, Ben Nedig is not here. Karl Armstrong would be next. It looks like he has taken off, so that leaves us with Jasmin Lilly-Spells for Department 23. Perfect. All right, Jasmin, you can answer the same question. What have you done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal field and to advance their careers? Go ahead and start now.
Thank you for the question. I've served as a mentor to high school kids. I've also served as a mentor to younger attorneys. Additionally, though, I have been an example of a woman who is in the legal career, who can parent and have many children, 4, and still have a career. And so I often have communications, and I encourage women to not be afraid to step out and build their families and still seek promotions and become partners and things like that. So those are the things that I have done. I've also am a tip mentor to, it just happens to be a female at this time, but I am a tip mentor to attorneys who are coming into the legal field. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next would be Department 24. We still have Dan Gilliam here. Spotlight Dan. Welcome, Dan. All right, Dan, you can tell us in 90 seconds, what have you done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal field and advance their careers? Go ahead and start right now.
Well, aside from the work that I did with the trial by peers, where I would actually speak with the individuals that were prosecuting and defending the cases, many of which were females, encouraging them to continue their studies and to do what they seek to do. We had a young lady start at the office a few years ago. She came on just as reception. Her name is Iris. She is a DACA recipient, and she showed an immense aptitude for learning very, very quickly, and showed us also very quickly that she wanted to further her education and perhaps go into law. And so after showing a great deal of abilities at the reception counter, we promoted her to my criminal case manager. And so she's been my criminal case manager for 2 years. She has come with me to court. She has now acknowledged that she for sure wants to be an attorney. If I am fortunate enough to be your next judge in Department 24, she has agreed to be my JEA, so I'm very excited about that. Additionally, my wife and I are currently sponsoring her and helping her pay for her education to get where she needs to go. So we are immensely proud of her. We are behind her 100%, and we cannot wait for her to join the legal field and be an exceptional attorney.
Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate that. Up next after Dan is Judge Jones. You have 90 seconds starting now.
Absolutely. It actually started long before that when I was a school teacher at Rancho, and I ran the student government programs in multiple civic organizations that basically emphasize young women getting into leadership positions in school, and the debate forensics team, and then school leadership. If anybody knows my department, I have an all-female staff. I, like Judge Baer, had the only female marshal until we got her promoted to what her position was at the school district, where she wants to be a law enforcement officer. Basically, all of my positions and stuff, I do the trial by peers program. I'm one of the old dinosaurs who was part of the starting group that does that. I also ran the truancy diversion as a judge, and my emphasis was on young females who were basically being expelled from school because of their truancy issues. And it came down to basically mentoring these young women in fostering, trying to get them into leadership positions and let them understand that they were not only equal, but should possess those leadership positions in their schools. And so we've worked really hard on getting them into the student government, student activity positions, and roles in leadership, along with the same thing that both my daughters were the student body president and or senior class president or class presidents for their entire career and doing it now in college. I think it's a huge emphasis on regards to that is getting young women interested in the law and understanding that this is not a male dominant profession. If anybody knows anything about our profession now, we have more women in the judicial position, which is absolutely commendable and should be followed on. We also have by far more women in the United States Congress and US Senate than any other state, which I'm extremely proud of. And all my positions have always been fostering young women.
We appreciate you giving your response to us. All right, next up is David Lopez-Negrete. We'll spotlight David. Welcome, David. Okay, you can go ahead and give us your 90 seconds on what you have done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and to advance their careers. Go ahead and start now.
Actually, this morning I was meeting with a mentee of mine. Her name is Allison, and she's a Boyd law school student. She's actually part of the part-time department, and I started mentoring her earlier this year. But beyond that, I've also been a mentor through the Latino Bar Association's program called Huellas, which means footprints. I encourage everybody to sign up. It's not just for female attorneys, but it involves high school students and law students as well as practicing attorneys later on. So that's basically what I've been doing. I'm going to sign up again this year for Huellas, and those are my efforts to promote women in our profession.
Great. Thank you so much, David. Up next will be Judge Kishner. Judge Kishner, if you can unmute yourself there. Great. Thank you so much. Judge Kishner, if you can tell us what you have done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers starting now.
Okay, well, for me, it starts with family first. I'm the proud parent. I've got a son and a daughter, and I speak extensively when they were back in high school and younger at their schools, trying to encourage all sorts of individuals to enter the legal profession, but particularly women. My daughter was very proud of the fact that her mom's a judge and tried to encourage a lot of her friends to seek going to law school and subsequently seek a legal career. I then move on to other schools. ATEC, the fact that I started an externship program and we tried to help women and minorities to be legal externs when they were still in high school so that they could move forward. I then go to, I'm a member, as you know, for about 2 decades of SNAWA. I'm a member of the National Association of Women Judges. I'm also speak at NJA's Women's Caucus, WAVE, which is Women's Empowerment, a whole bunch of different women's groups. Basically, I'll speak at any level to try and encourage people to enter the law profession and seek something professional. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge Kishner. Appreciate that.
And with that, I need to go back to court. Thank you so much.
You bet, no problem. All right, so up next, our last department for this question is Department 32. Up first will be Judge Bear. Oh.
But, you know, it's awesome that I get to tell the rest of my story about my Marshal Dominique. Again, I've been the judge 10 years in Department 32. I recruited Dominique. About, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago, she came to me and she said she wanted to go to law school. And so I arranged for a meeting with her and the dean of the law school, and I wrote a recommendation letter. Dominique was fortunate to get into the law school. And I have to tell you, your question says, what are you doing to include and help women in the interest perhaps of diversity in the legal field? Well, I don't think it could be more inclusive than this. She's going to graduate Boyd, UNLV Boyd Law School in December, and she's going to be one of you soon. And that's probably the highlight of my time as a judge, I have to tell you, because she's like a sister now after being in the trenches with me for more than 7 years. So thanks.
Thank you, Judge Bear. All right, up next is Christy Craig. I think it looks like Christy had to take off. She had a class to teach. Pam and Dee. Did Pam or Dee get any private questions? Pam or Dee, anybody? Nothing
I did not.
No, nothing from Pam, nothing from Dee. All right, well, we do have sort of one last set of questions. Well, I guess there's one. So this is for Department 24. We'll go with Dan Gilliam here, Department 24. Dan Gilliam, the question for you, I asked the question is Department 24 criminal or civil or both? And I will add on to that, how do you plan to address both if it is both? So we'll go ahead and let you start that answer right now, 90 seconds.
Right now, it is an all civil calendar. Judge Crockett's chambers are over in the Phoenix building, and they don't have the capacity typically to have inmates over there. And so he handles only civil. He doesn't handle any criminal. And so I don't know what the chief judge is going to do, am I to win in Department 24, whether that's keep me in an all civil department, give me an all criminal calendar, or give me a hybrid. If I had to guess, I would guess that Judge Bell will give me a hybrid calendar, meaning partially criminal, partially civil. Obviously, I'm going to hit the ground running with the criminal. I'm not going to have an issue with that. I look forward to the challenge of learning what I need to do for civil, but I'm committed to that, and I'll be ready to go on January 4th, no matter what kind of calendar she gives me. I think that a common misconception that the public may have about judges is that they know absolutely everything, and I can tell you from experience that they certainly do not. However, the good judges that don't know everything know how to get to the answer properly, and that's going to be me when I'm your next judge at Department 24. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was the only question that we had for one of the specific departments. So our last question is a question again for the judges that are on still, about how you, this is the public question that I had asked. So how would you handle a case where a juvenile has been certified to the adult court? That's what we'd like to know. So how would you review the case and determine whether it should remain in your court or transferred back to the juvenile justice system, because the district court has the discretion based on the circumstances of the case to transfer the case back? So how would you do that? We will start with our first judge still on. Is Judge Johnson is still on?
I am still on.
Perfect. All right, Judge Johnson. So you go ahead and have 90 seconds to answer how you would handle a juvenile case that has been certified to the adult court. So go ahead and start now.
Okay, well, first of all, you can appreciate that it's usually the DA's decision on whether or not they treat the juvenile who's committed a crime, whether they decide to charge them as an adult or a juvenile. But the circumstance you're talking about is extremely rare. I might note that I was assigned a criminal docket for over 3 years, and I never had that situation occur at all. But I think what you would have to do is look at the circumstance and determine whether or not it is appropriate. But I think that's pretty much the DA's call on where they want to charge, whether they want to treat the juvenile as an adult or a juvenile whenever they're doing the charges. So.
All right,
I'm sorry. This is Kelly Jones, and I was the person who asked the question. And I apologize, Judge Johnson, because I may not have phrased the question correctly. I was not talking about a direct file, which is what the DAs do in the case you're speaking of. I was speaking of when a juvenile has been certified by one of the juvenile judges here at family court. That's the situation where the district court judge has the discretion of whether or not returning it back to the juvenile justice system.
Okay. Well, again, I'm going to tell you that is an extremely rare situation, at least for me it is. Like I said, I had a criminal docket for well over 3 years, and I never had that situation come up, not once.
Thank you, Judge Johnson. Appreciate that. All right, so next, Judge Bear, so you've heard the question and sort of the clarification of the question as well. So we can go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, giving us your 90 seconds on that one, starting now.
Okay, well, as you all know, I tried to, and I did arrange to be here because I wanted to make myself available for all the questions and everything else. A cliche comes to mind: no good deed goes unpunished. I say that in jest, of course. You know, I have no idea, because it seems respectfully that that's a question that might be better posed to a family court judge. Though I have extensive criminal law experience, and I know Susan talked about this in a criminal context, it seemed like perhaps the question really now has been more specifically narrowed down to a family law sort of an issue. And, you know, I don't mind saying that in my over 30 years, I've never practiced any family law. I respect those that do it. God bless them. But I have no idea. I'm here, and I'm sorry I don't know the answer to that, because, again, it seems like a family court type of issue. I wish we had a family court judge here to answer it.
Well, we will have family court judges here starting next week. So, so thank you, Pam. Unless Pam or Dee received any additional questions, I think that was all of the questions that we had for today. We do have one candidate who would like to offer an answer related to the juvenile justice question. I would be appreciative of her to do that. So we'll give one more candidate an opportunity to speak, and then we will move on from there. All right, Jasmin, you mentioned you could answer this question, so we'll give you 90 seconds to do so. Go ahead and start now.
Thank you. So I've served as a juvenile justice attorney in the family courts when I was a student attorney. But what happens is there is a hearing sometimes in family court. It comes up to the district court, and the judge at that point has a decision to make. Some of the things that are useful are the briefs, which deal with the child's prior record, if there is any. Additionally, deals with the child's lifestyle, deals with any services the child has received in family court. And you also need to look at the, I think, cognitive functioning of that child, because we know that the brain development is not complete until the child was till early adulthood. And so those are some of the factors that are extremely important in determining whether the case should be in district court or should be in juvenile court. And it is discretionary. I'm actually working on a few cases right now where I am arguing jurisdiction between juvenile and adult court. And so there's a lot of statutes on it, but for the discretionary issues, it's looking at the child's record, the services that have been given, the cognitive functioning and the support system, and where that child can best receive services if appropriate, or if the crime rises to the level that it needs to be in the adult system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmin. And it looks like we do have Judge Jones, who is available for our just very final candidate. So the question had to do with the certification of juveniles to the district court. And once they are certified to the district court, what would you do to make sure that you review it in your discretion in order, if it should be staying in your court or returned to the justice court? So if you wouldn't, or to the juvenile court, I'm sorry. So you have 90 seconds. You can start your answer right now.
Yeah, it does come into play. It has only happened to me twice, once through the truancy diversion program, where I actually had to assist with getting the child sent back to the juvenile system rather than being tried as an adult. And once in front of me, once they are certified, it is a discretionary made by the judge. The judge and district court can look at all the factors that Ms. Spells just talked about, in addition to the crime itself and the way in which it was perpetrated or allegedly perpetrated, as to whether or not you're going to charge that individual as an adult. The view that I always take on those is my concern is in regards to what caused the crime, what caused this child to decide to make these crimes effective or put them on or do those crimes. I just had a young man who was 16 who was charged with 3 counts of an adult crime that would basically lead to his life imprisonment. I'm reviewing that matter right now, so I can't discuss it, but it is one of those ones where you do discuss and do review all the material in your discretion to make a determination as to whether or not you agree with that certification. And trust me, when you're talking about a juvenile that's looking at a lifelong sentence, it's something that a judge needs to go in detail and look at every bit of information they can from all sides as to whether or not you're going to continue that certification, because you're talking about usually a life-altering sentence for a child. So as a discretion as a judge, you must look at it in full detail.
Thank you so much, Judge Jones. Appreciate that. And that was our last answer, our last question. So we'll turn it back over to our president, Jori Spangler, who will close us out.
Again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate as either a candidate or just signing up and listening. I know this is our 3rd event, and I'm really enjoying these, and I'm taking copious notes. Because it's hard to know the backgrounds of all of the different people. And I have found this extremely useful, and I hope everyone else has as well. As we mentioned earlier, we are going to be continuing these through the rest of the month. And I think next week we start with the family court. And then we will be ending up with, I think it's some of the municipal or justice courts. I'm not quite sure. I don't have the schedule in front of me. But every Thursday for the rest of the month, we are going to be having the rest of the candidates who are running. And again, thank you so much for coming, and see you next week.